Hi, and welcome to the Dream Team series. Today's segment is Turn Fear of Change into Fuel for Success. And we have Libby Gill here today. She is the CEO of LA-based Libby Gill and Company, a coaching and consulting firm. She guides emerging and established leaders at organization, is an author of 5 books. Like, oh, come on, amazing. And she also shares her success strategies on multiple platforms, including CNN, NPR, The Today Show, and the list goes on. Her latest book is The Hope-Driven Leader, Harness the Power of Positivity. Thank you, Libby, for being here and being part of the masterclass and serving this community of entrepreneurs who have the desire to be successful.
Well, thank you for having me.
So my intro was just a snapshot. I would love for you to just elaborate more on what your organization provides.
I am an executive coach. I spent my first career was in corporate entertainment, heading up communications at Sony and Universal and Turner Broadcasting. And I took what I really loved, which was helping people chart a path for success. I always had the biggest staff of the youngest people, and my job was to turn them into leaders. And I loved that process. So when I decided it was time to make a change, I started a coaching business, and I coach people one-on-one. I coach people through a digital course. I also talk to large groups. I'm headed to Newport Beach today to address a big group. And so there are lots of different ways to do this. I work with teams, individuals, established leaders who are sort of at the top of their game and want to figure out what's next, and also people on their way up.
Oh, amazing. So I know that you left a good job in corporate world to start over as an executive coach. What led you to that decision, and was it a difficult one?
I was at Universal when I decided. I was always on the television side of the business, so I was a corporate person, but I started my career launching Married with Children, and my last television project was launching the Dr. Phil show and kind of everything in between. So after a lot of years of doing that, it was really just time for a change. So I was really looking at what would I do next in terms of something that had a teaching or training, building career success aspect to it, writing, which I've always been a professional writer, speaking, and honestly, I didn't know where to turn for that kind of career. So I started looking at coaching and training in that, and I began with people who were either wanting to get into the entertainment industry and needed help to make that transition, or in some cases wanted to get out and figure out what was next. And it was difficult at first. It's always difficult, I think, to make a major change, but it was exciting too. So I never looked back. It was a great decision, and I'm so glad that I did it.
Yes, and what a great way to pivot. Change could be really difficult for anyone, and add entrepreneurship into the mix, and it can halt any advancement towards success. So kudos to you. But based off of your experience, how would you reframe change as an opportunity for growth?
Yeah. It's interesting because change is one of the main things I deal with, particularly in speaking, but also in coaching. Because if you think about it, the nature of change itself has changed. It is more complex, it's more rapid, it's more ever-present. So think about right now is the slowest rate of change you may ever experience again. So when you think about that, it's only getting faster and more complicated. I think people really need to kind of reframe that natural instinct, which is just our plain biological instinct for survival, for self-protection. And we're animals, and we're not particularly aggressive or strong ones compared to most of the animal kingdom. We don't have a lot of defenses. So our defense is to see the negative. Mm-hmm. And it's called negativity bias. We wait, just like when you're criticized by somebody, the negative comes through so much louder than the positive. And that's how we can beat ourselves down. But when you understand this is my defense system doing what it's supposed to do. It's prepping me either to fight, to flee, or we forget the other one besides fight or flight is freeze, which often happens. And when you're looking at entrepreneurship where you're completely self-directed, it triggers that primitive part of the brain, but we've got to know wait a minute, that's just me saying, oh, this is different, this is new, this is untried. And then when you recognize that's our defense system and you go beyond that, then you can start to see, this isn't scary, this is exciting. This isn't daunting or overwhelming. This is new and different. I've got to build the skills. I've got to shift the mindset. And then you can start to see changes. Oh, I'm going to try that. I'm going to try that. I'm going to try that. It's not all going to work, but I'm going to keep trying things.
Yes. And I also think with the experimenting, people just have just a natural fear, and it just comes with the territory. So what would you suggest on conquering that, just combating that on a day-to-day basis? Because change is always happening on a constant basis.
Right. And it's always challenging us. Well, I think of that immediate fears. I call it the INR, the immediate negative response. And that's our adrenaline and cortisol and all that kicking in. And for me, the best way around that is to have a very simple process. And the one I use, I work across so many different industries because I'm always focused on people and performance. And that's an issue in every organization. There are always people and performance. So I kind of break it down into 3 steps. And the first is to really clarify your vision. So for organizations, they might have to have a 10-year, a 5-year, 20-year plan. But for human beings, I think having a 1 year to 18 months is about as far out as most of us, me anyway, can think. So if you clarify your vision and you say, Natasha, where are you going to be in 1 year? How are you going to change your business and be up here? And it's not the little stuff. It's not, it's not all the things you're doing already. I said it and really challenge people to look at a year from now. If it's, tomorrow or a month from now, that's just, you can just do that. But if you look at it a year and that really causes you to stretch and think. Mm-hmm. And the next part of that is to simplify the pathway. If you see that vision, here's where I want to be in a year. What do you have to move out of the way in terms of the internal, your mindset, your fear, insecurity, doubt, or the external? What do you have to, are there time wasters or negative people, or are there skills and training or coaching that you need to bring in?
Sorry.
Okay. I just put that up. So you need to bring in what you need to help you get to the next level. You need to remove anything that's slowing you down. And finally, it's where, as they say, the rubber meets the road. You got to execute that plan. So that's where most of us fall apart. We can have a million great ideas, but how are you going to stick to it? How are you going to execute it? And to me, that's where, as a coach, I step in and say, so you've got this 1-year plan. You've figured out how to chunk it down, how to get there. You're realistic about the obstacles that you might encounter. Now, how do you hold yourself to it? And there are lots of ways. You can use technology. You can use a support person. You can use your calendar. I really recommend people have, especially entrepreneurs that may not be able to afford coaches and trainers and all that stuff, find an accountability buddy, a like-minded person, don't have to be in the same field, that you can do a once a week or twice a week or once a day, even check in to say, here's the vision, here's the action I'm taking towards it. And you've got someone who's objective, who can give you some feedback, who can ramp up your courage or your self-confidence, who can share ideas and connections and contacts. And having that touch point, when I started my business, I had an 8 a.m. call every day for 2 years with an accountability buddy. And it shifted over the years. I'm on, after 17 years in this business, I'm on my 3rd, and we do a once a week call. And that really keeps us on track. It makes you tougher on yourself. It makes you more aggressive, and it sort of boosts you up when you're feeling like, oh, I'm not sure what the next step is.
I know. I think that's one of the things that's really difficult when you're starting off and you're an entrepreneur. It's keeping that motivation high and keeping it ramped up, because you can lose that so quickly and then get off track really fast. So I understand the accountability partner, and I love that because I have one as well, and I think it's a brilliant tool. What other tools have you discovered useful in resetting mindsets to actually take action?
tune into your own brain, figure out what that negative chatter is. What is it that gets in your way, that stops you? And we've all got that, oh gee, I'm too old, I'm too young, nobody's gonna see the value, I don't have the right skills. I mean, we feed ourselves all of that. And in some cases it's true, you don't have the time or the money, but how are you then going to transcend that? If it's important, you'll figure out how to get there. And I think one thing that we neglect to do is bring in the help that we need soon enough in our business. Mm-hmm. So it's when you look at, and a lot of entrepreneurs starting out think, oh, I can't hire help. I can't, get an admin. I can't get a virtual assistant. I can't do any of that, an intern. But you've got to look at, and this really speaks to what you do, Natasha, you've got to look at what is the highest and best use of my time. What should I be doing that no one else can support me on? And for me, I don't book my travel anymore. I don't clean my house anymore. Things that, and it's funny, organizers and housekeepers, I cannot tell you how many people I've assigned. It's like, oh, my office isn't functional. Well, get somebody in there to organize it for you. Pay $100 or $200. That is money well worth it if you got to look at what am I going to get back for that. So we've really got to look at what have we convinced ourselves we're incapable of, and yet we really know with a little help, a little push, and sometimes just a little discipline that we could get there. Yeah. So those are some of the tools. Get that help. Get a college intern. Get there.
I tell people all the time, it is excuses that limit you, and it's like you trying to convince yourself of what you're not capable of or what you can do, and instead of being creative and thinking outside the box of ways that you can actually achieve those things. Right. And I think it's brilliant. Even like when you mentioned intern, a lot of people would say, oh, I can't really afford your services, and I'm like, well, there's probably a nearby college that you have nearby you that you can actually utilize an intern. And yes, it might take some time to develop them, but once you have them on board, it makes your life so much easier. And time is money.
Right. So if you're spending $20 an hour or $40 or whatever it is an hour to get help with social media, with writing, with, or your website, anything like that, does that free you up to do something that's then going to make you able to make even more money? You've got to look at it that way. And initially it may feel like, oh, I'm not ready for that step, but I really encourage people to do it before they think they're ready, because that's going to get them to focus on the highest value activities they can be working on.
When do you think they would know? Because that's another question that I get a lot is, when am I ready for that? Like, am I ever going to be ready? Is there an actual time? When do I feel that?
Well, again, to me, it goes back to what's that vision. And I tend to think in those 1-year increments. And I usually think of one thing to elevate my business every year. I'm going to keep doing what I'm going to speak, I'm going to coach, I'm going to write, I'm going to do all of that. But then I have to look for something above that. And in the Franklin Covey world of important versus urgent, everything you're doing may be urgent because you got to get it done. You got deadlines, you got clients, you got to get it done. But the important things may not be anybody tugging at you to say, hey, Natasha, time to write a book. Where's that ebook of yours? Where's it? But you got to say, for me, this year was about writing and launching a new book. And if I keep all the other trains on the track, and that's the new element, and I really leverage and work that's the only new thing I need to do this year. So 1 year it was a course, an online course. Next year it might be changing last year it was changing all my systems in preparation for a book. I did a new website, added a lot of new bells and whistles to the social media. So you've really got to look at where am I going this year? What's going to elevate, all in that straight line of building your business.
Of course, keeping your goals in line with your everyday tasks.
Exactly. But if you don't know what that big term vision is, you don't really know if your actions are on track or not. So you've got to know, this is where I'm headed. I want to be here. And that can be it can be a financial goal. Mm-hmm. It can be a number of leads goal. You can quantify it any way, but you have to, or you're right. You don't know when you get there. You got to have a measurement for your own success. And I also take that 1 year goal, 1 year vision, because it's big enough that you got something to go after. And I apply that both to personal and professional life. So I have that one big initiative for my my business.
Mhm.
And then I also apply that to the, what do I want to do this year? Is it a fitness goal? Is it I'm going to get all, one year it was getting all of my retirement documents and college plans and financials all in place. And it seems like, well, gee, maybe you could do that on a weekend. Well, no. That was big. I gave myself a year to really upgrade all my systems, because I don't need the added pressure or the arbitrary deadline of saying, let's do that in a week.
Yeah.
When in fact, it involves other people and getting things, changing. And so give yourself some time. There was a woman I coached who, I always give away a coaching call when I speak. And it's amazing what you can do in a short period of time. And this woman said, well, I really want to I want to teach young girls and young women how to deal with finances. And this is a woman who had 6 kids, including 4 daughters.
Oh, wow.
And they were little. And I said, well, let's think about this. Don't you think you're impacting your kids right now by teaching them financial savvy? And she said, yeah. And I said, well, don't you think it might be wiser to wait 5 years until they're all over 15? And she said, oh, yeah. I said, well, why not? And she said, well, I just think I should. And I said, well, but who said that? Who decided that's when you have to do it? And she said, oh my gosh, what a relief. I'm going to wait 5 years, and boy, will my husband love you, because I'm driving him crazy. It's also about the goals we pick and the timing.
Yeah.
I just last year decided it was time. One of my big goals on the personal side was I want to write a novel. I've always written, and I just didn't feel like it wasn't going to further my business. But it was on the personal, and so I took a year, and it's now 2 years. I'm on my 3rd draft. But it's like, this is my passion project. Nobody's like begging me for this. Nobody's waiting in the wings to make it into a movie. But It's something I want to do. So that goes on the list, but the timing is so critical. And that's where people box themselves into an uncomfortable corner by picking the wrong sequences.
Yes. I agree with you on that. I think timing is crucial. Timing is everything, especially in business. And I like the fact that you incorporated the personal, because when people talk about happiness and success and having time and leveraging their life, they forget about the personal. And you have to take that into account, especially when you're talking about timing. So
it's just no fun working so hard if you don't feel like my life is in balance. And for me, that means international travel and spending time with my family. And, it's all of those things. If you get that out of whack, entrepreneurship can be a grind.
Oh, yes. It can be terrible. It's like a suffrage. You're like, ugh.
Why did I do this to myself?
I know. So today you're offering the first chapter of their book, right?
Yes.
I would love you to tell us more about it, because I'm really intrigued about the whole positivity aspect of it.
Most people are familiar with the science of happiness, and there is in fact a science of hopefulness, which I discovered because I've talked about hope for years. I came from a really off the charts non-functional family, and it was really a matter of how do I get myself out of bed and moving, and then to the next level and the level after that. And it was always this sense of this little driving force. And to me, that was always hope. It was hope that things can improve, hope that you're going to have a better day, hope that the money will come, but it's not a wishful thinking. It is very much about linking beliefs to behaviors. You know where you want to go. You're seeing it with what in the science of hope is called true hope, meaning being realistic about the obstacles and how difficult it may be to get there. And is your goal even realistic? I mean, people will say, well, what couldn't you do? I said, well, I can't be an astronaut at this stage. Don't have the background, don't have the athletic body. So there are some things that would not be very realistic. So why would I set myself up? And yes, somebody out there may be a 60-year-old astronaut. God bless you. Not going to be me. So I will set stretch goals that are doable, that are grounded in reality, but that are opening up possibilities. And that to me is what it's really all about.
Oh yeah. And I think that's a great a tool to actually combat fear, because it's the hope that you're gonna get to that place that will conquer your this self-doubt that you sometimes get in yourself that comes from the fear. So I think that's completely relevant and something that could be super useful. So whoever is watching, please take the advantage of this free offer and like totally read it. I think it's
Yeah.
gonna be useful. And one of always the last question I ask during the interviews, and I just think it's, you know, it doesn't have to be on topic, but what is the number one advice to every entrepreneur building a business to execute their vision? What piece of advice would you just give them?
Well, I think I've probably already touched on it, but I really think it's find help before you need it. And one thing in my book, Traveling Hopefully, where I first started talking about hope years ago, is building your own, what I call your support squad, so that you've got a team of people, not all paid people. Maybe it's your accountability buddy, maybe it's a fitness trainer, maybe it's someone you barter services with, maybe it is a coach, or that you really build this team, because you truly cannot do it by yourself, certainly in business, but I think that spills over to regular life. And for me, it's knowing that I've got people in all those key places, and sometimes they change because people's priorities, their locations, you know, their ability to help or work with you change. So when you build that support squad and know what people's roles are, and you're always looking to find somebody you can add to it, and at the same time you're reciprocating, you're just up-leveling the success of yourself and others around you. So that to me is the most important thing, that you think of yourself as that, you know, I'm the CEO and this is my team. And you solicit them and keep an eye out for them. And you put that on your radar, that I need a copywriter, I need a great graphics person. You run into somebody and say, I love what you did here with your ebook. Who'd you use? You'll build that team really quickly if you do it with awareness.
Yes. And I think it is about that, having a vigilant eye, and just also not being afraid to ask people for help, or ask them for, like, yes, who did you use for that? I mean, you know, and just getting outside of your comfort zone to actually build that team around you. And it could be someone that you actually have in your Rolodex that you haven't even asked.
Absolutely.
But, you know, just being resourceful. And I love the fact that you just brought that up, because I'm 100% about utilizing your resources and what you have at your disposal. You don't have to shell out too much money. There's people willing to support you, and all you have to do is ask.
It's so true. People are very kind. And even if somebody says no, they don't have the time, the inclination, or whatever, you're not going to fall apart. Just make the ask.
And at least it's in the back of their mind as well, you know?
Yeah. And that's one thing women, and the data will bear this out, we are not particularly good at asking for help. We're used to shouldering all of it.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Well, thank you so much for taking part of this segment with us. I would like to invite everyone to go visit libbygill.com to read more and learn more about her services. You are the only one who can create your vision to be successful. So why not start and do that today? Thank you, Libby.
Thank you.